When you think about a movement that's going to change the world, you probably picture it starting in some major center of power, right? A place like Rome or at least Jerusalem. But that's not what happened here. So let's dive right into this, using the text of Matthew chapter 4 to figure out why a global ministry got its start in the pretty unexpected northern region of Galilee. So this is the big puzzle we're going to unpack together. Why start here, of all places? A region that was, sometimes kind of looked down on, a crossroads of cultures, often seen as being out on the fringes. Well, the answer is way more deliberate and, frankly, more profound than you might think. But before any public ministry, before a single crowd gathered, the story actually begins in complete and total solitude. It kicks off with this period of intense preparation, like a spiritual crucible that's going to forge everything that comes next. Okay, now just think about the context here for a second. 40 days and 40 nights. Fasting. This isn't some casual test. We're talking about a trial at the absolute peak of physical and spiritual vulnerability. And it's into that state that 3 very specific temptations are thrown his way. The first test? It's aimed right at the most basic human need there is. I mean, after 40 days without food, the pull to just turn these stones into bread would be immense. It's a test of whether you'll let immediate physical satisfaction win out over a deeper spiritual purpose. And the response? Wow. It sets this foundational principle for the entire ministry that's about to unfold. The point being made is huge. Depending on God's word is actually more life-sustaining than bread itself. It establishes a clear hierarchy, spiritual truth over physical impulse. Okay, so the second temptation shifts gears. It moves from physical need to what you might call spiritual pride. It's basically a dare, a challenge, to put on a big public show, to force God's hand and prove who you are in this spectacular, undeniable way. It's a classic test of faith versus presumption. And the comeback is just so sharp and clear. Real faith doesn't need to demand signs. It doesn't put God to the test. This principle pushes back hard against any urge for showmanship, making it clear that the ministry to come won't be built on cheap tricks, but on real, authentic faith. And then we get to the big one, the final, ultimate temptation. It's not just about food or a display of power anymore. This is an offer for everything, all the kingdoms of the world, all their glory. It's a shortcut to power, a kingdom without the cross, and all it costs is switching your allegiance. This is the ultimate test of worship and identity. So you can see the 2 completely different worlds here, right? The wilderness was the private proving ground, the solitary test. But having passed that test, the stage is now set for this massive shift, from the desolate, lonely wilderness to the bustling, populated shores of Galilee. All right, now we're getting to the heart of our question. This move up north to Galilee, it wasn't a retreat, and it certainly wasn't a random choice. As the text is about to show us, this was a precise strategic pivot, and it was all set in motion by one specific piece of news. And here's the trigger. The news about John the Baptist landing in prison acts as a signal. It's like it marks the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next. And the response is immediate, a move into Galilee. And notice the detail here. He doesn't just sort of wander into the area. He leaves his hometown, Nazareth, and sets up a new base of operations in Capernaum, which was this busy fishing town right on the Sea of Galilee. This is a very deliberate relocation. And this is the cool part. The text doesn't leave us guessing why. It tells us, straight up, exactly why this specific geographical move was so critical. It wasn't just about strategy, it was about prophecy. The writer of Matthew literally connects the dots for us. He points back centuries to the prophet Isaiah, Esaias is the Greek version of his name, to explain the deep significance of this moment. This one little verse is the key to unlocking the why behind Galilee. And there it is, the answer to our big question. Galilee was chosen precisely because it was known as Galilee of the Gentiles, a place seen as on the fringes, diverse, maybe even spiritually in the dark. The prophecy said that this exact kind of place is where a great light would first appear. So the location wasn't just a backdrop, the location was the message. So with the prophetic stage now set in Galilee, what's the first public act? It's not some grand speech to the powerful. Nope.
It's a quiet moment by the sea, calling a few ordinary working guys to come and help build something absolutely extraordinary.
Let's just walk through this for a sec. The call itself is so simple and direct, but look at their response. The text uses words like straight away and immediately. There's no let me think about it. These fishermen drop everything, their nets, their boats, even their family, to follow him. The whole movement starts right there, on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Now that this core team of 4 is in place, the ministry doesn't stay local for long. Not at all. What kicks off in this little town of Capernaum? Well, it just ignites, and it spreads like wildfire with incredible speed all through the region. What's so interesting is how the ministry breaks down into these 3 clear activities. It was a completely holistic approach. You have intellectual engagement through teaching, you have spiritual proclamation through preaching, and you have this very real physical compassion through healing. This 3-pronged strategy just met people right where they were, addressing their total needs. And the effect was insane. The text doesn't say his fame spread to the next town over. It says it went throughout all of Syria, which is this huge neighboring region. That just goes to show you how powerfully the message and especially the healings were resonating with people. And this just paints the picture perfectly, doesn't it? Galilee became a magnet. People weren't just trickling in from the local area. No, they were traveling from the Decapolis, from the religious capital of Jerusalem, from all over Judea, and even from across the Jordan River. Galilee, that unlikely starting point, had become the absolute epicenter of this massive, region-wide phenomenon. So when you look at it, the story of Galilee really shows that a world-changing beginning doesn't always need a world-class address. It started in a place of darkness, specifically so that the light would be that much brighter and more unmistakable. And that kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? How do our own beginnings, even in places we might think of as insignificant or out of the way, hold the secret to the unique impact that we're meant to make?